Hey everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Vacuum Exposition. Now, unfortunately, today's video won't have a very upbeat, positive start just because I have some things to tell you guys, just kind of some changes that are going to be happening to the channel over the next month or two, and I wanted to update you guys all. Some of you guys might have noticed that I didn't upload last weekend. I was super busy. One of my other side jobs had called me in and needed my help for something. And I fully intended on getting a video out, but then I came back home that Sunday night and I had a myriad of things that I had to do for school, as well as just kind of trying to keep my house together. We also just recently signed a lease for a new rental home. So that is big positives for us and the channel and everything. So we're going to be moving back into a home. Some of you OGs out there that have been watching the channel for a while will probably remember my old, what I called the vintage room. I also called it the rainbow room because it was just full of so many colors. I used to start my videos with playing an old record on my big stereo system and then getting into the video. Since moving, obviously haven't been able to do very much of that, but hoping to get back to that soon here. Now that brings me to my next point. Well, there's not really an easy way to say it, but I am exhausted. I have been burning the candle at about 9 different ends lately, and it's just catching up to me, and it's time to make a change for a little bit. Big thing is getting ready for this big move that we have coming up here. We start moving in about the beginning of December, so I only have a couple weeks before that to just kind of get everything ready to go. And in my little apartment here, there's not really a whole lot to do, but still, you know, there's other things that need to be moved, different storage units, and of course there's tons of vacuums that need to be relocated, including the ones that are in my apartment currently. Now, I'm gonna be honest with you guys, I have been working really hard, and you probably have noticed my video schedule has been a little bit inconsistent. I tried really hard to keep getting them out on Sundays, but they kept getting later and later in the weeks. And I never wanted to miss a video for you guys, so I tried what I could, but unfortunately, time just got away from me, and I need to take a break. I am hoping that it's only going to be like a month or so, just kind of get through the move, get everything kind of situated, get a new filming spot. I will tell you guys that there is so much in store at this new house for us. You know, we are getting back into a house that's bigger, or at least more space than the place that we were even in. For those that remember that, I have a bigger room that's dedicated to my collection now, as well as I have a garage back that I can actually use as a little shop. It's not just going to be storage for more vacuums, so I do have to keep a storage unit just so that I have them somewhere. But either way, we're going to have a functional setup again. So that means more restoration vids, more, you know, period correct type videos for like 60s and 70s machines, all the way back to some 20s machines. I've got some setups there that I'm planning on getting together. As well as in my new vacuum room, and I'll probably show this when I do the tour, but I'm setting up what I call the vault. And that's where I'm going to put my absolute rarest of the rare machines. It'll be an extension. Basically, it's a closet, but it's a very big walk-in closet connected to the vacuum room. I had a closet connected to my old vacuum room, but it was pretty small. And the one at the house that you guys probably remember, that was one of those pocket door type closets, so it really was maybe like 1.5 feet deep. So that's why I just kind of took the doors off and pushed machines back in so that I could display more. But gonna be different this time. We're gonna have all of the coffee can hoovers together, or at least the majority of them together. And you know, I just basically have my oldest stuff together again. We're going to just basically like build a new vacuum room. All the colors, all the ads, everything that I had before, we're gonna get it all back. We're gonna set it back up, you know, in a really cool way again. And that way I have my own little kind of museum all set up and ready to go. But I did need to prepare you guys for that, just because in case people were wondering. I will have to take about a month at least off from doing videos. I know that I promised the December set series, but unfortunately I just don't have the time for it. You know, I was thinking about it, I was trying to make things work and get it all together, but honestly, with the way everything's just kind of separated amongst storage units at the moment, and with the move coming, it really doesn't make sense to bring in some very rare collectible vacuum cleaners into a construction zone, essentially. So everything has to go on a pause for at least about a month. But as soon as I'm back and operational, we are going to have more and more videos. I'm going to say that this weekend's probably the last weekend before I move again. So, you know, next weekend is, you know, Thanksgiving and everything in between there. So really, you know, we don't have a whole lot of time before we start moving in. Now, it is going to be quite the change, obviously. But I'm hoping to effectively bring you guys into my new vacuum setup, and well, we have some better videos instead of just being kind of in a corner like we are right now. And that way, you know, we just improve our production quality, you know, we'll get it back. Now, I'm sure a lot of you have seen the thumbnail on the video, so you are excited. Carl, come on, we gotta get on this stuff. But, you know, I had to be honest with you guys. So give me some time to kind of get my life back together in the new home. I'll even probably do a house tour for you guys so that we see where the old Constellation Carl collection is living it up. And then we'll just kind of go from there. But anyways, let's get on to our video for today and take a look at some really cool ones. All right, everybody. Now, these machines were here because I was planned on doing a September special on a set of Bison vacuum cleaners that I have. Now, unfortunately, being as that I do need to take that time to get everything kind of situated with my house coming up here soon, I won't be able to do that. But I thought, because I already had these guys already here, you know, I figured I would show you guys and do a video on them anyways. Now, I am missing one of them that is in my collection. I just couldn't get to it in time, but I do have a Bison Centurion, which was the dark brown colored model. But we will take a look at that when I do a real September video on the Bison set. Because the plan is to have all of them together in the vault when we get that all finished at the new house. But for what we have, we've got some special ones to take a look at. Now, first things first, I know some of you guys are probably saying, Carl, we've already seen a Bison video. I did one over a year ago now on just this guy, but we have since acquired another one. And we have hose. So, what we're looking at now, of course, the Bisons came out in the mid-70s, about 1975, and they came out with several models. I think I even brought it up that there was the Mark I, which was the hinted at prototype that nobody has seen. A lot of people have said that they have a Mark I that's really just the second model, the Mark II, which is what this one is. But then there is also the Mark III. Now, the Mark III essentially is the same model as the Model 1000. That was a hammer tone painted Bison instead of the nice, shiny, glossy, polished aluminum. That one was actually hammer tone painted kind of a dark green. And essentially it was just that machine, just in dark green. And then the label on the front was just a big sheet of gold. It was not any fancy thing, didn't say Bison or anything on it. It was just known as the Model 1000. I'm not sure if there's a model tag that actually says that on it, but that one was the Model 1000. There was also a commercial Bison known as the Apollo, which again looked very similar to the Mark III, but it had a single speed instead of the rheostat adjustment switch, which essentially is a wheel that winds these things up instead of just an on-off. But the Apollo did have just an on-off. It also had a more royal-esque bag on it. So instead of having these big plastic boots right here that would connect the machine to the bag, it would have had just the bag straight to the coupler right there. Aside from that, I believe it did have a 3-prong commercial grounded cord. But aside from that, there was only 2 other models of Bison, one being the Centurion 1, or Centurion, which came with a more softer plaid fabric bag, as well as it just said Centurion on the front. That was a dark brown hammer tone painted machine that was exclusively sold in vac shops, as well as the following model, which would have been the very last Bison that you could buy, which was the Centurion 2. It was signified by saying Bison down the handle and Centurion with 2 eyes behind it. 2. The bag on it was different. It was a little bit more firm fabric, not really plaid, but more of like a checkerboard type pattern on it, but otherwise the exact same as the Centurion 1. Now, like I said, those 2 would have been sold in vacuum shops, as well as the Model 1000 I previously mentioned. It was also sold in vacuum shops. From what I can tell, that was sold in order to utilize the rest of the stock of parts. So, there you have it. That is the history of all the Bison models. Following their closure in, I believe, 1982, the machines, unfortunately, did not last very long. Their quality control, pretty low. In my last video that I did on them, there was even one that broke the day of its demonstration, where somebody had put the nozzle all the way down to the floor, and these things have a tremendous amount of suction. But somebody put the nozzle all the way down to the floor, and with the brush roll adjusted pretty low, it essentially had self-propulsion. So as soon as they plugged it in, the switch was already on full blast. So this thing rocket shipped straight at a wall and busted the whole front nozzle assembly off. When it wasn't just like it ejected from itself, it literally broke off. So that's the story I've been told anyways. But what are we looking at here? So the Mark II, we've already taken a look at this one. This was essentially the very, very first Bison model we ever saw on the market. A little bit more rudimentary than the Mark III. The Mark III did have some advantages to it. The Mark II, the biggest things about it were no access point in the front like you would have on the Mark III. So in order to change the belt, it was a little bit difficult. You'd have to eject the front nozzle. I'm not going to do that because it is very hard to get back on, but you would take the nozzle off, and then you'd have to unscrew about 4 little screws along the bottom of the plastic rug plate, which is another fail point for these poor machines. And then you would try to fish the, or take the brush roll out, fish the belt up, and wrap it around this little pulley that would utilize a type of ratchet and plug system in order to connect to the armature or the drive shaft of the vacuum cleaner. Now, that's pretty technical, but this machine was pretty advanced for what it was. These were developed by a former Kirby employee that sought to do away with the belt lifter on the front of a Kirby. If you know what a Kirby is, you know that it has that big nose piece on the front. And that is how you remove the belt, and makes it thus easier to change the belt. Why he wanted to get rid of them, no idea, other than he just wanted to make vacuums more streamlined, and that big nose just didn't help. Don't know, but either way, that was his main goal for these things. Now, the Mark II also had a side-mounted PTO. We talked about this in the last video as well, but I was able to get this polishing wheel with this particular model when I got it from another collector, and he included it with the sale of the machine. But essentially what that was for is so if you wanted to polish your shoes, all you would have to do is plug your vacuum in, turn it on, and then just kind of run your toe against that wheel up underneath the machine over here. So very interesting thought on that, but wasn't necessarily the greatest thing ever. Now, with the Mark III, they effectively did away with that side mount PTO system. However, Per recent discoveries, I've learned that some Centurions later in the 80s actually got the side mount PTO. The only thing I can think of in that time period was they had the systems there ready to go in more Mark IIs. And in order to get rid of those motors with that drive system to the PTO, they figured, well, we'll just cut a hole in a Centurion body and put it through. In addition to getting, the side-mounted molded bumper that goes on the side of the motor housing. Aside from that, this particular Mark II does come with the original Bison logoed bag. As you can kind of see, there is a buffalo on there. It says Bison. Very, very cool. Of course, on the front, you just have the Bison logo right here. And that's pretty much it. Now, the Mark II was the earliest form of their height adjustment system. This height adjustment system was terrible, by the way, if you've ever used a Bison. So the Mark III had something a little bit different, but the Mark II, what you would do is there was a hard-mounted middle tab right here where you would push down and it would put the floor nozzle all the way to the ground. In order to bring that up, there was actually an eject tab down towards the bottom out of plastic that you would push, and it would effectively bring the front back up. Great, that works okay, but it's not, actually, because once you get that nozzle all the way to the ground, in order to push the eject button, basically, to come back up, you have to push down. You can kind of see where this problem is. Now, Kirby's had kind of a system like that, but I want to say that it was a little bit better because their spring system was better of what they use kind of today. But the way that this worked, essentially, you had so much force to push the nozzle to the floor that to bring it back up was really a feat and sometimes it didn't even work. Sometimes you had to turn the whole machine off in order to raise the front end up. But they changed that with other models. Ergo, the model Mark III. The Mark III actually has the same type of system where you push it down with this tab and kind of see that it even goes down pretty easily. But as soon as you're done, you put your foot on this tab right here to once again push down, which was a tad better because it put less weight where you would normally push to put the front end down, and thus kind of eject it again that way. Now, this carried on all the way through the Centurion, so that was quite a bit more helpful, but, it still was a very kludgy system, and honestly, in order to get that to work on the Mark III, just because it had been sitting for so long, I did have to tap on it with a hammer just to get it to free itself back up. So if you can't leave your vacuum sit for a very long time and it freezes up something like that, the quality is just, but doesn't matter. Still love these machines a lot. One other thing that I noticed about these is actually kind of neat is these headlight housings right here. As you can see, they lift up in order for you to access the headlight, as well as that's kind of how you check your connection between the front nozzle here and the rest of the body. But on the Mark III, it actually rounded, so it was easier for it to turn upwards. Whereas on the Mark II, it's just angled, so it just, I don't know, it fits very snugly. Now let's move on to the Mark III. Now, the Mark III, like I said, it's pretty similar to the Mark II. Little changes here and there. But this particular one does have a few changes that are notable, I think. One being the bag. Now, on the Mark II, you were only offered the Bison logo bag. Pretty nice. I honestly prefer this bag. But on the Mark III and other subsequent green models, you were actually optioned with two bags. You could get this one, this diamond pattern bag, or you could get the Bison logo. Honestly, I prefer the Bison logoed bag, but seeing that this one is different enough than the Mark II that I have, I am not complaining. But aside from that, of course, the Mark III states that it is a Mark III on the handle, whereas other models, would state what they are. The Mark II is the only one, to my knowledge, that doesn't say what it is directly with the Bison logoing. Like I said, the Model 1000 would have just had this gold labeling there. It didn't say anything on it. Very odd, but, You know, Bison was a strange company back in the late 70s, early 80s, so I'm not really going to criticize anybody. But what are you doing? Come on. Anywho, now these, of course, still share that GE rheostat adjustment motor. So there's a wheel that you turn slowly to power these things up. So we will fire up the Mark III actually today, just because we've heard the old Mark II go. But aside from that, you know, I was going through my old stuff. And I've got a lot of assorted vacuum paraphernalia, if you will. And I went through something, and I was actually given a manual for a Mark III way back when I was just starting out as a collector. Very, very young and naive and trying to figure out my own way and all this. And I actually found the original manual for a Mark III that I'd been given. So I have a manual for a Mark II, and I have a manual for the Mark III. I need a manual for my Centurion. Someday, maybe I'll find one. But either way, now this hose actually didn't come with either of these machines. This was actually a gift from my late friend Jay that was actually supposed to get shipped out to me. It was actually in a box, ready to go to me, had my address and everything on it, but unfortunately it just never made it out. And But either way, he had found this hose for it. This is the original hose for one of these. And I didn't have one, so, you know, naturally, when he found it and figured out what it was, he called me up, ecstatic that he had found a hose for my Bison. At the time, I just had the Centurion and did not have a hose for it, but I did have the attachments, so, you know, made the hose kind of a necessity. But either way, the old Mark II and III, they're such cool machines. My favorite color is green, so that's why this machine became so sought after for me. But how did I get these machines? Now, I think I said this when I got this machine originally, but the Mark II actually came from another collector that was, I think, more of a Kirby collector, but he managed to find 3 of these things all together and made one perfect one out of all of them for himself. And then he offered the other 2 for sale on Facebook. And of course, I went straight headfirst into it for this one. And I said, because one of them was missing the cord and the switch and everything up here, I said I wanted the one with the cord and asked if he had a bag set up, and he did. This one. And we made a deal, and it shipped out to me. It needed quite a bit of restoration. So I did have to do a lot of polishing to get this thing looking like it is now, but overall it is a fantastic machine, runs great, and honestly it's just such a cool machine to have and be able to kind of look at it as a trophy now. And for a long time it sat in my living room here in my apartment as such on my shelf, that I just wanted to always have it with me, because it is just kind of a sign of how far I've come as a collector. Now, the Mark III. Now, as you guys knew, I was working with that vacuum shop that was closing up. So I went back last weekend and did a little bit more shopping and got the Bison here. Now, this machine is pretty special. The Mark III was the original one that I wanted, because I loved that it had a nose on it, you know, right here. I love that, you know, it had, you know, the Bison with the big M and the Mark III emblem on the front. It just was so cool. So, you know, after all these years of trying to find one, I finally find the Mark II, and I thought, this is as good as it gets. I mean, honestly, I thought this is as good as it gets when I found my Centurion, but this was as good as it gets. Then to find this, and not only that, but to find it locally. Now, as a little kid, wanting a Bison really bad, always trying to find one. I had vivid dreams of either having one or finding one. One specific one, I was walking around an antique store and walked around a corner, and there sat one right there. And I immediately grabbed it, ran to the counter, bought it. Don't remember how much they charged in that dream, but you know, and then I woke up. So since then, and this history behind it, I always wanted to find a Mark III. So, you know, I've always kept my eyes peeled for them, but they've never really come up for sale. And when they do, they come up for a lot of money. So I just figured, you know, I'd be happy with the Mark II at this point. And then I went to that vacuum shop. And then sitting atop another pile of machines was a Mark III. Now, I even mention it in my little video there that it's kind of sitting atop some stuff. But you know, it's a Bison. And a friend of mine even said, like, I hope you didn't leave without that Bison, knowing my history with that machine. And, you know, it made me think about it. And I went, you know, I've got to see if I can go back and save it. So I did. I went back, I got it, struck up a deal for it, and brought it home. Um, this past weekend was pretty much the first time I'd had time to even work on anything in weeks. But I was able to get it kind of shined up and looking better. I made this nose cover right here because the thing is, without this cover, there's just a big square hole right there. Of course, you're going to lose a lot of suction, so I found some thick cardstock in green and then laminated it and then affixed it to the front. So now it has a plug in the front, so it's not going to lose suction there, and it looks about as correct and accurate as I can get it at this time. Now, my future plans are, and I have already kind of started figuring this out and mapping it, you know, with my resources, but I have a Centurion, as you guys know. So it uses a plug on the front, just like this. But it's the factory one. It's just gold. It's not green, of course. That would match this color right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to resin cast it. And I am going to make a replica, essentially, of the nose cap. And then, of course, paint it. Because once it's resin cast, it's just going to be clear. But I'm going to paint it this olivey green color right here. And then, at that point, I should have a 100% correct, accurate model Mark III. And then perhaps with other people, because that part seemed to be missing because a lot of people needed to remove it to change the belt and then never put it back on, maybe that will be a alternative source of income. Who knows? But we have moved on to the portion where we fire one of these bad boys up. So for the final run demo for a while, I think we're going to fire up that Mark III and see how she does. So let's get to it. All right, folks, so we got the old Mark III all plugged in, ready to go. I even threw in a new headlight bulb on it, so it is going to light up like Gort from the day the earth stood still. So let's get her going, and I am going to start it up, you know, of course, in true, you know, wind up 747 taking off traditional manner of fire up, because this thing just sounds so cool when you get it going and all wound up. But that build up just is perfect. Chef's kiss. Let's get her going. Well, and there you have it, folks. The old Mark III still did a fantastic job on the floor. And of course, that headlight lighting the way and, showing us where to go. So I hope you enjoyed a little run demo on this today. Well, everybody, we have come to the end of the last one for a while. Now, it's not the last you'll ever see of old Constellation Carl, like I said, but the next time you see me, we will have a whole new setup, a whole new room to film in all my vacuums, or at least a significant portion of them, with me and able to be seen by you guys so that, we can do more vacuum stuff and have some more exploration in the vacuum rooms. We'll take a look more in the bins because I'll have more space to do that. And of course, we'll look at more cool stuff like Bisons and all kinds of stuff. Now, for those of you that have joined me for a while and watched my channel since we've put it out, I appreciate everything that you guys have done and all the kind words that have been said over the past few years I've been doing this. Come January, we're looking at almost 4 years of videos, and it has been a blast. And I'm pretty sad that I have to take a break, but it'll be worth it because we'll come back stronger with a lot more cool stuff. But I wouldn't count me out from doing a Christmas special. I always do a Christmas tree pick with my collection, or at least whatever I put under the tree this year. So we will certainly have one of those this year. So, keep your eyes peeled. Definitely click on that little bell icon at the bottom there so that you can find out the next time I have a video. And of course, I'll try to keep active here. If you have any other questions, of course, feel free to look me up outside of YouTube. I am Constellation Carl on Facebook. If you have questions, comments, concerns, or requests, please feel free, of course, to make them there. Hit me up. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions. And if you are interested in buying a vintage vacuum for your collection, down below I have the link to my eBay page, as well as the link to me and my wife's books. We are running a sale on all of our books for this week only. So if you want to get your copy of Victor the vacuum book that me and my wife co-wrote, and yours truly did all of the illustrations, definitely get on there and get yourself a copy of that. That kind of goes with, the whole Constellation Carl history. So definitely go check that out. But until we meet again, my friends, we will see you all soon. And we will catch you again in the next one. Have a great holiday season, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, and we will catch you again soon, I promise. So have a great rest of your day, y'all.